champ now.
Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, champ?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, one time during my career, I was on a Bomber of the Month tour.
Bomber of the Month? I would have been a bomb compared to you.
Well, you'll be on the tour.
What's happening, my people? It's Cash Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it, can't get enough of it. Miss Cass, Thomas Hill, Mike Mazik, Mike Rem. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cash Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, the life and career of the Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. The Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. Has the family today. Excuse my tardiness. Yeah, we're right at the end of another big week of boxing history. And we're going to go back a ways now. John L. Sullivan fought around the late 1800s. And remember, he was the last bare knuckles champion. And when they put on gloves, he was the first glove champion. The Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. But first, for the highlights of boxing history today, we're going to look at the top 10 best of the junior welterweight division. So let's get into that. the top 10 best fighters all time, junior welterweight division. Now, the division between lightweight and welterweight goes by different names. It has been called junior welterweight, light welterweight, and super lightweight. Now, whatever you want to call it, the fighters in this division weigh between 135 and 140 pounds. Now, the first champion in this weight class was crowned back in 1922. But many organizations did not recognize this division for many years. Now, the IBF and WBO didn't have junior welterweight champions until they were formed in the 1980s. Both of those bodies were formed in the 80s. IBF 82, WBO 1988. Now, the weight class has seen many great champions over the years. Who have been the best? Today, we look at the 10 best to ever compete at junior welterweight 140. Okay? Let's get into it. Number 1, the Hawk, Aaron Pryor. Competed professionally from 1976 to 1990. 39 wins, 1 loss. 35 by the knockout route. Wow. 35 knockouts in 39 wins. Y'all know what I'm doing. Should have had this done. 89.7% career knockout ratio for the Hawk. Okay, Aaron Pryor was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. He had an excellent amateur career that saw him achieve a record of 204 wins, 16 losses, 220 amateur fights for the Hawk. He was also an Olympic alternate before the turning to the pro ranks. He was also on that great 76 team as an alternate. The Hawk had power in both hands, great footwork, and an excellent chin. His style of pressure fighting and tossing shots from all angles made him a tough fighter for anybody. Pryor had unlimited energy and could battle from start to finish, and he seemed to get better and stronger as his fights progressed. He fought in the 15-round era. Pryor was an excellent boxer who would have been a champ in any era. Pryor fought his career in the junior welterweight division, and he beat several solid boxers on his way to a crack at the championship. He stopped Al Ford, Alfonso Frazier, and Leon Esprilla to get a shot at the legendary Antonio Cervantes. That was him and Antonio Cervantes right here. And Antonio, that's Alexis Aguirre, I'm sorry. Wrong picture. But anyway, Pryor was dropped. It seemed like Aaron Pryor always got knocked down in the first round. He got dropped by Cervantes, but he got up and knocked Cervantes out in only 4 rounds to become the champion. He defended his belt 10 times before retiring. Now, among his ring victims were Lennox Blackmore, Miguel Montilla, Alexis Aguayo twice, Nick Furlano, and Gary Hinton. Okay, number 2, talking about the greatest junior welterweights of all time. Number 2, Mr. JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez. I'm gonna shorten these up because it got laid on us. Oh, there's Julio. Thing moving slow now. Now, JCC competed from 1980 to 2005, 25-year career. 107 wins, 6 losses, 2 draws, 86 knockouts. Incredible. 107 wins and 86 knockouts for JCC. That's 80% knockout ratio. That's incredible. This man had 115 fights and still had an 80% knockout ratio. And it was a hard choice between JCC and Pryor, who was going to be number 1. But Pryor got the nod. But JCC is a close number 2. Julio Cesar Chavez was born in Sonora, Mexico. He had a short amateur career before invading the pro ranks. Chavez improved quickly as he progressed through the paid ranks. Chavez had an iron chin and an aggressive style that was hard to deal with, known for his devastating left hook to the head and body. He also had a decent defense and could break foes down with combinations. JCC was calm and cool as he cut off the ring and ripped into his opponents with deadly shots. Imagine Prime versus Prime, JCC and the Hawk. Wow. Now, JCC would have dropped him in the first round. Everybody dropped the Hawk in the first round, seemed like. But the Hawk would have got up, and man, I can't call that one. Had to lean Hawk, though. Okay? But that would have been... I think I might have did that one. I forgot. I'm going to have to look that up. Number 3, top junior welterweights of all time, Kasia Tszyu. Kasia Tszyu. There's him in Zab. Remember that one? Now, Kasia Tszyu competed from 1992 to 2005. 31 wins, 2 losses, 25 knockouts. Man, they got to stop with these good knockout rates. Kasia had a career knockout ratio of 80.6%. Kasia Tszyu. Yeah, I'm going to cut him short now. Now, Kasia Tszyu was born in Serov, Russia. He won gold as an amateur in the 1990 Goodwill Games before becoming a pro fighter. After turning pro, Kasia moved up the ladder with speed. The Thunder from Down Under had excellent timing and precise power, but he also had skills that took him to the top. A great chin, speed, timing, and power made Tszyu a problem for all boxers during his prime. He just usually seemed so calm under pressure. Kasia Tszyu. Son ain't bad neither. It's him. Number 4, we go back a ways. Nicolino Loesch. Nicolino Loesch competed from 1958 to 1976. 117 wins, 4 losses, 14 knockouts. Now, he wasn't a power puncher. That's interesting. What is that knockout ratio? 4 knockouts in 117 wins. 14 knockouts in 117 wins. Wow. I'm just curious. 8% knockout ratio. 8%. Not 80. 8. 8. E-I-G-H-T. 8. But he was one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time. Nicolino Loesch was born in Argentina. He compiled an outstanding amateur record of 117 wins and 5 losses. He had 117 wins in the amateurs and 117 in the pros. The funny part about his career is that he was known to smoke and not train to the best of his ability. He smoked cigarettes, but he still dominated top flight boxers for years. Nicolino Loesch, looking at the top junior welterweights of all time. Number 5, there's Antonio Cervantes on the left. 1964 to 1983. 67 wins, 12 losses, 1 draw, 37 knockouts. Now, Antonio Cervantes was born in Colombia. After a very short amateur career, he turned professional. Kid Pambalay had destructive power in both hands. Even though he was sometimes known as a forward-moving plotter, Cervantes could box off the back foot. He would stick the jab to set up his power shots as well. It took top-flight boxers such as Aaron Pryor and Wilfred Benitez to deal with this legendary fighter, Antonio Cervantes. Okay, top 10 junior welterweights of all time. Coming in at number, I cut him a little short, had a little bit more on him, but yeah, it's late. At number 6, Barney Ross. legendary Barney Ross. There's Barney. Barney Ross. Okay. Now, he competed from 1929 to 1938. 74 wins, 4 losses, 3 draws, 22 knockouts. Now, Barney Ross was born in New York City. He eventually landed in Chicago, Illinois. After winning the Chicago Golden Gloves, Ross turned pro. Ross had outstanding stamina, an iron chin, really fast hands and feet, and the will to win. He had a terrific left hook, which he used to the head and body with equal effect. Ross took on the best competition during his career. He could go to war in the proverbial phone booth when the situation called for it. Okay. And they said Ross, Benny Leonard, Tony Canzonieri was to the welterweight division what Roberto Duran in the 30s, what Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Tommy Hearns was in the 80s. They had that kind of talent, those three. Okay? And I think Ross was probably the best of those three. But coming in at number 7, the Hitman, not Hearns, the other one. Hitman Hatton, Ricky Hatton. What's up, Jarrell Hattie? How are you today? And wait for it. Salute to what's up, Jarrell Hattie? I'm gonna go ahead and say salute to Kensaw Love 1, 2. But salute. We're talking about the top 10 junior. I told you. Salute Kensaw Love 1. Top 10 junior middleweights of all time. And then we're going to talk about the Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan, put back in the 1800s. Appreciate you for the color. Kensaw Love 1. Appreciate you. Kensaw Love 1 and Jarrell Hattie. Where were we? The Hitman. The other Hitman, Ricky Hatton. Now, Ricky competed from 1997 to 2012. He had a pro record of 45-3 with 32 knockouts. And of course, the Hitman was born in Stockport, Manchester, England. He had a short but decent amateur career. He turned pro and learned on the job as he came up through the ranks. Now, Hatton had decent skills and power, but his heart, speed, and nonstop aggression were his real assets. He was a great body puncher, and he liked to stay up close and personal during his fights. That's what got him knocked out by that check hook with Floyd. He was too close and personal. Now, Hatton seemed to have an unlimited reserve of energy that allowed him to be brutal for all 12 rounds. The other Hitman, Ricky Hatton. A couple more. Number 8, I cut him down some. I had a little bit more on him, but yeah, I got here late today. Jack Kid Berg. Go back a ways. Jack Kid Berg. Jack competed from 1924 to 1945, 21 years. 157 wins, 26 losses, 9 draws, 60 KOs. Now, his real name was Judah Bergman, known as Jack Kid Berg. He was born in Whitechapel, London, England. He learned to box as a young man and turned pro with skills and confidence. Berg learned and improved after a couple of years of learning his trade in his opponent's backyard, as well as his hometown. Kid Berg was known for his unlimited stamina and for throwing punches in bunches from every single angle. He lacked power, but he was accurate with head and body shots. His heart couldn't be questioned. Jack Kid Berg. Okay, number 9. It is Tony Canzoneri, one of those great lightweights from the 30s. Damn. Him and Jack Kid Berg look like they could be brothers. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. What's that? Wait a minute. There's Jack Kid Berg right there. And there's Tony. They could be twin brothers. But Tony Canzoneri competed from 1925 to 1939. 141 wins, 24 losses, 10 draws, 44 knockouts. Tony Canzoneri was born in Slidell, Louisiana, but he moved to Staten Island, New York as a teen and learned to box there in New York. He learned his trade by sparring and boxing on his way up. Canzoneri was known for a great chin, outstanding stamina, and lightning fast hand speed. He possessed a powerful left hook and a fast-paced, aggressive style. Canzoneri had heart, and he would stand and trade even when he was outgunned. Win or lose, Canzoneri always left it all in the ring. Lacking one-punch knockout power, he made up for it by throwing lots of punches in bunches to break his adversaries down in a grinding battle to secure wins. Tony Canzoneri. And finally, number 10, Miguel Cotto. He's the top 10 junior welterweights of all time, 140. Miguel Cotto. Okay. Miguel is he competed from 2001 to 2017. 41 wins, 6 losses, 33 knockouts, for a career knockout ratio of, that'd be 80.4%. Miguel. Oh, Lord. Drop my tab. Okay. Yeah, Miguel. And Miguel is from Providence, Rhode Island, but he was raised in Puerto Rico. After becoming a 2000 Olympian, he turned to the pro rank and quickly rose up the ladder with little to no trouble. Cotto was a boxer who did not do anything great, but he did everything in the book very well. He had an awesome left hook to the head and body. Cotto also had very good boxing skills, fast hands, and a will to win that took him to the top and beyond. He was initially a pressure fighter, but he slowly became more of a moving boxer as he developed his skills. Yeah, he changed. Oh, you can see him change during his career. He was all pressure, come forward in the pocket, but he developed into a great boxer. You saw it right before your eyes as he went through his career. So Miguel developed. Okay, we got a couple of honorable mentions. Some guys that were great junior middleweights but didn't make the top 10, like Oscar De La Hoya. The former junior welterweight champion defeated the great Julio Cesar Chavez. Okay, Bud, honorable mentions, Bud Crawford. The former unified undisputed 4-belt 140-pound champion made 6 successful defenses of those titles. Okay, Wilfred Benitez, one of the top 5 Puerto Rican fighters of all time. Benitez was the youngest champion in boxing history, still is, at age 17. Some of his high school classmates were at the fight when he won the championship. And his reign included 2 successful defenses. And the last honorable mention is Delio Loy. Okay, that's him on the right. The 2-time junior welterweight king beat Carlos Ortiz, Juan Cargi. No, he beat Carlos Ortiz, and we got one more, Juan Cargi. He's the last one for real. Cargi was the junior welterweight champion on 3 occasions. 3-time junior welterweight champion. Okay, now let's get to the Boston Strong Boy, Don L. Sullivan. The last bare knuckles champion, and when the Queensberry rules took effect and mandated wearing gloves, Sullivan said, "I'm still a champion," and became the first glove champion. Okay? Sullivan said, bare knuckles, glove, baseball bat, billy club, I'm the champion. got to come through me. Okay. So here's the answer to 2 trivia questions. Who was the last bare knuckles champion? John L. Sullivan. Who was the first gloves champion? John L. Sullivan. Answer to 2 trivia questions. John L., the Boston Strong Boy. Okay, let's get John L. going for you. And he had that fight with Jake Kilrain, the 75-round fight. We're going to look at it briefly during this profile, but after the profile, we're going to go in deep and really look at that, the lead up to it, the fight, and then the aftermath, the legacy. We're going to go in deep on Jake Sullivan, John L. Sullivan versus Jake Kilrain today. Okay, now let's go. John L. Sullivan, the Boston Strong Boy. It's going on 3 o'clock already. I was late. Okay. That's Jake with the in the middle, in the vest, blue vest, black hat. John L. Sullivan. Now, John Lawrence Sullivan, known simply as John L. among his admirers, and dubbed the Boston Strong Boy by the press. He was an American boxer. He is recognized as the first heavyweight champion of glove boxing, de facto reigning from February 7th. I'm not even in. From February 7th, 1882 to September 7th, 1892, almost 10 years and a few months. He is also generally recognized as the last heavyweight champion of bare knuckle boxing under the London prize ring rules, being a cultural icon of the late 19th century America, arguably the first boxing superstar and one of the world's highest paid athletes of his era. Newspapers' coverage of his career, with the latest accounts of his championship fights, often appealing in the headlines and as cover stories, gave birth to sports journalism in the United States and set the pattern internationally for covering boxing events in the media and photo documenting the prize fights. John L. Sullivan. Okay, now John L., for that heavyweight, his entire career, 5'10" inches tall, had a reach of 74 inches, fought in the orthodox stance. Now, he had a total of 46 fights in his career. He won 42. He lost 1. Had 3 draws, 32 knockouts. I think that's like 76%. "32 knockouts, 42 wins." Yeah, 76.1% for John L. Okay, let's continue. Let's look at John L.'s early life. Wait a minute. Let me do this real quick. Bear with me for one moment, please. Come on. That's cool. Right there. Okay, John L. Sullivan's early life. What was that? Wait a minute. Yeah, that's his early life right there. Boom. Yeah. Okay, early life. Now, Sullivan was born on October 15th, 1858, one day after me. But yeah, about a century before me, though, but I'm the 14th. He was born October 15, 1858, in the Roxbury neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts, to Irish immigrant parents. Michael Sullivan from Aberdeen, County Kerry, Ireland, and Catherine Kelly from Athlone County, Westmeath in Ireland. Now, Sullivan attended public schools in his native Boston, attending the Dwight Grammar School and performing well academically. Sullivan's parents aspired for their son to enter the priesthood as a Catholic priest. So to this end, Sullivan enrolled at Boston College in 1875, but after only a few months, he turned to playing baseball professionally, earning a substantial sum of $30 to $40 a week for his efforts. Now, Sullivan recalled in 1883, $30 to $40 a week back then was probably like over $1,000 or something in today's money per week. Now, Sullivan recalled, I threw my books aside and gave myself up to it. This is how I got into the baseball profession. And I left school for good and all. From the baseball business, I drifted into boxing and pugilism. So let's take a look at his boxing career. Take a look at John L's boxing career now. Jerome said, I got Bud winning against Canelo after watching Lara. Okay. After watching Lara and Canelo? Yeah. Okay, yeah, because Lara outboxed him. Did a good job in there. Lara kind of took his foot off the gas at the end. That's what cost him. Said Bud going to do a mix of what Floyd and Lara did. Yeah. Yeah, Lara took his foot off the gas at the end of the fight. That's what cost him, you know. Yeah. Kind of let up a little in the later rounds. But yeah, okay. You think you're gonna get a 12-round decision, Jarrell? Or stoppage? Okay. Now, as a professional fighter, Sullivan was nicknamed the Boston Strong Boy. As a youth, he was arrested several times for participating in fights where the sport was outlawed. He went on exhibition tours offering people money to fight him. Sullivan won more than 450 fights in his career. Well, officially only had 40-something, but unofficially in over 450 fights during his career. That's a lot of fighting. There's some controversy among boxing historians over whether Sullivan had sparred with black boxer James Young in Tombstone, Arizona in 1882. It is significant because Sullivan insisted that he never fought a black boxer. Now, if this did occur, Sullivan possibly had a brief sparring session with Young and did not regard it seriously as a fight. Bragged that he didn't fight no black boxers. In 1883-1884, Sullivan went on a coast-to-coast tour by train with 5 other boxers. They were scheduled to hold 195 fights in 136 different cities and towns over 238 days. Now, to help promote the tour, Sullivan announced that he would box anyone at any time during the tour under the Queensberry rules for $250. He knocked out 11 men during the tour. Okay? In Sullivan's era, no formal boxing titles existed. He became a champion after defeating Patty Ryan in Mississippi City near Gulfport, Mississippi on February 7, 1882. Modern authorities have retroactively labeled Ryan the heavyweight champion of America, but any claim to Ryan's being a world champion would have been dubious. He had never contended internationally, as Sullivan had. Okay. Depending on the modern authority, Sullivan was first considered world heavyweight champion either in 1885 when he defeated Dominic McCaffrey in Ohio, in 1888 when he fought Charlie Mitchell in France, or in 1889 when he knocked out Jake Kilrain in round 75 of a scheduled 80-round fight. Now, arguably, the real first heavyweight champion was Jim Mace, who defeated Tom Allen in 1870 at Kenner, Louisiana. But strong anti-British sentiment within the mostly Irish American boxing community of the time chose to disregard him, right? Chose to disregard Jim Mace. Yeah, Jim Mace was legendary, bare knuckles. He traveled around for a boxing booth, took his ring with him. Now, when the modern authorities refer to the heavyweight championship of the world, they're likely referring to the championship belt presented to Sullivan in Boston on August 8, 1887. The belt was inscribed, presented to the champion of champions, John L. Sullivan, by the citizens of the United States. Its centerpiece featured the flags of the United States, Ireland, and the United Kingdom. Let's look at the Charlie Mitchell fight. John L. versus Charlie Mitchell. And I need some air or something on in here. Excuse me for a minute. And it's burning up in here. Ooh. Open this patio up. Okay, there we go. Yeah. We're having a little bit of noise coming in. They doing some work across the yard over there. Neighbors. Okay, I'm back. All right. John L. Sullivan. Oh, there we go. Let's go. Yeah, the Charlie Mitchell fight. Okay, there's John L. and Charlie. John L. on the left, Charlie on the right. Okay. In March of 1888, Sullivan fought Charlie Mitchell, an English prize fighter, for 39 rounds in defense of his world title. Okay. Mitchell was from Birmingham, England, and had fought Sullivan in 1883, knocking him down in the first round before the police halted the contest in the third round. Their second meeting took place on March 10, 1888, on the grounds of a chateau at Chantilly, France, with the fight held in a driving rain. The fight was held in a driving rain. It went on for more than 2 hours, and by the end of the fight, both men were unrecognizable and had suffered so much damage that neither could lift his arms up to punch. Both men couldn't continue, and the contest was considered a draw. Okay? At this point, the local police arrived and arrested Mitchell. He was confined to jail for a few days and later fined by the local magistrate, because bare knuckle boxing was illegal in France at the time. Now, swathed in bandages, Sullivan was helped to evade the law and taken across the English Channel to spend the next few weeks hiding in Liverpool, England. Okay, Jarrell says decision for Bud. Ain't no stopping Canelo. That's right. Only can piss him off. Yeah, Canelo ain't getting stopped. Yeah, I seen Triple G hit Canelo, and I was like, that's it. And Canelo just looked at him and fired back at him. Both of them two was exchanging some heavy stuff, especially in that first fight, man. Unbelievable chins, both of them, Canelo and Triple G. Now let's look at the Jake Kilrain fight. After the profile, we're gonna go and look at this really deep, the Jake Kilrain fight, but briefly right now. That's him and Kilrain. Remember, John O'Sullivan had the handlebar mustache, but he shaved it off for this fight because you could still throw people down and grab and all kinds of stuff. That's Jake on the left and John L on the right. The Kilrain fight is considered to be a turning point in boxing history because it was the last world title fight fought under the London prize ring rules, and therefore was the last ever bare knuckle heavyweight title fight. This was the last bare knuckle fight. It was also one of the first sporting events in the United States to receive national press coverage. Newspapers carried extensive pre-fight coverage, which included reporting on the fighters' training and speculating on where the fight would take place. But the traditional center of bare knuckle fighting was New Orleans. But the governor of Louisiana had forbidden the fight in that state. Sullivan had trained for months in Belfast, New York, under trainer William Muldoon, whose biggest problem had been keeping Sullivan from drinking. A report on Sullivan's training regimen in Belfast was written by a famed reporter, Nellie Bly, and published in the New York World. Now, Rochester reporter Arch Merrill commented that occasionally Sullivan would escape from his guard, and in Belfast village the cry was heard, "John L. is loose again, send for Muldoon." Muldoon would snatch the champion away from the bar and take him back to their training camp. So on July 4th, 1889, one Kentucky newspaper stated, the Sullivan-Kilrain prize fight, which is to take place in Louisiana on next Monday, is now the most talked about event in sporting circles. The stakes were $20,000 and a Diamond World Championship belt. On July 8th, 1889, an estimated 3,000 spectators boarded special trains for the secret location, which turned out to be Richburg, a town just south of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And the fight began at 10:30, and at first it looked like Sullivan was going to lose. The first fall and first blood were awarded to Kilrain, but the first knockdown was accomplished by Sullivan, reported one newspaper. Kilrain failed to knock Sullivan down at all. Sullivan vomited during the 44th round, but the champion got his second win and was able to turn things around for himself. After a grueling beatdown, Kilrain's manager finally threw in the towel after the 75th round. And the governor of Mississippi offered a $1,000 reward for each fighter, because it was illegal, remember? Now today, a historical marker is located at the site of the fight, just off Interstate 59, and the fight is immortalized by the Sullivan-Kilrain Road, which runs through the site of the event at the corner of Richburg Road. Okay, we're gonna go into that deep after the profile, the fight, yeah. Okay, later career. We winding down on John L. Later career, not a long one. Later career. See if anybody, what's happening in the chat. Oh, not too much. Later career. Sullivan did not defend his title for the next 3 years. During this period, he was a friend and supporter of Irish boxer Ike Ware, who became America's first featherweight boxing champion. In 1889, both Ware and Sullivan were Boston natives, and Sullivan occasionally appeared at Ware's fights. Sullivan agreed to defend his title in 1892 against challenger, gentleman Jim Corbett. Now the fight was on September 7th in New Orleans, Louisiana. It began at 9 p.m. in the electrical illuminated Olympic Club in the Upper Ninth Ward neighborhood, now known as Bywater section. The venue filled to its 10,000 person capacity, despite hefty ticket prices ranging from $5 to $15, which is equivalent to like $142 to $400 nowadays. Now the heavyweight contest occurred under the Marquis of Queensberry rules, but it was neither the first title fight under those rules, nor was it the first title fight using boxing gloves. Corbett was younger and faster, and his boxing technique enabled him to dodge Sullivan's crouch and rush style. Okay? In the 21st round, Corbett landed a smashing left that put Sullivan down for good. Sullivan was counted out, and Corbett was then declared the new champion. When Sullivan was able to get back to his feet, he announced to the crowd the following: "If I had to get licked, I'm glad I was licked by an American." In 1895, Sullivan and Patty Ryan joined the touring company of the musical The Wicklow Postman and presented exhibition boxing matches prior to performances of the play. Sullivan is considered the last bare knuckle champion because no champion after him fought bare knuckle. But Sullivan had fought with gloves under the Marquis of Queensberry rules as early as 1880. And he only fought bare knuckle 3 times in his entire career. Right? Patty Ryan, Charlie Mitchell. Patty Ryan in 1882, Charlie Mitchell in 1888, and Jake Kilrain in 1889. So he only fought 3 bare knuckle fights in his career. His bare knuckle image was created because of infrequent fights from 1888 up to the Corbett fight in 1892 had been bare knuckle. Sullivan retired to Abington, Massachusetts, but appeared in several exhibitions over the next 12 years, including a 3-rounder against Tom Sharkey and a final 2-rounder against Jim McCormick in 1905 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He continued his various careers outside boxing, such as being a stage actor, speaker, celebrity baseball umpire, sports reporter, and bar owner. In his later years, Sullivan also gave up his lifelong addiction to alcohol and became a prohibition lecturer. Okay, death. Sullivan was the effects of prize fighting, along with his being overweight and unhealthy after a long life of overindulging in food and alcohol, took its toll on the boxer. Like most boxers of the time, he did not live a very long life. Sullivan died at age 59 at his home in Abington, Massachusetts, supposedly from heart disease. At the time of his death, Sullivan had a young boy named Willie Kelly in his custody. The priest of Sullivan's church had brought Kelly, an orphan, to the front of the church and encouraged anyone with the means to care for the boy. Sullivan is buried in the old Calvary Cemetery in Roslindale, a neighborhood of Boston. He died with $10 in his pocket, equivalent to almost $180 today. Now, according to the county where Sullivan died, he had an estate worth $3,675. I don't know how much that's worth today. Legacy. Look at the legacy for John L. Sullivan, the Boston Strong Boy. Legacy. Sullivan was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990 as a member of the Hall's original class. He had a record of 47 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws, with 38 wins by knockout, 3 draws. Though many sources disagree on his exact record. Yeah, records was kind of sketchy back then. Said to have over 400 fights, unofficial. Now, the barn where Sullivan trained still stands to this day in the small town of Belfast, New York, and is now the Bare Knuckle Boxing Hall of Fame. Sullivan and Corbett's landmark 1892 fight is depicted in the 1942 Warner Brothers biopic, Gentleman Jim, a fictionalized account of their relationship. Ward Bond portrayed Sullivan. You know who Ward Bond is, the father in Leave It to Beaver. He portrayed Sullivan. Okay? On their 2017 album, Life is Good, the band, Flogging Molly, made reference to Sullivan on the track, The Hand of John L. Sullivan. And there you have it, the life and career of the Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. Okay, let's look at this fight. John L. Sullivan versus Jake Kilrain. This is really good here. We're gonna discuss this fight now. John L. and Jake Kilrain. The 75-round fight they had down there in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It's Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Okay. Sullivan. Okay, let me get this going for us. It's Friday. We got like three cards tomorrow. There's one from California. I think it's one from Florida. I know it's one from England. Yeah, 3 cards tomorrow. Yeah, it was like a few cards last weekend too. So yeah. And this month got some good fights coming up in July too. I think Shakur and Zepeda got the big women's fight. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano 3. You don't usually see a trilogy when one fighter wins both of the first 2 fights, but yeah, I think they needed a trilogy. Yeah, I think they needed a trilogy. And that's in July. That's another good fight on there too. Shadeja Green and Savannah Marshall going after Savannah's 2 titles. Franchon got 2 at super middleweight Savannah. I thought Savannah and Franchon was going to fight again. Savannah took Franchon's undisputed, and then she vacated 2 of them, and Franchon got 2 of them back. Yep. So it's going to be Franchon and Shadeja Green on that card. On the undercard of might be the co-main, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano 3. Let me get this going. This is a really good piece here. John L. Sullivan. Better to do it. Okay. All right. Yeah. Jake Kilrain versus John L. Sullivan. It's called The Tale of Jake Kilrain versus John L. Sullivan. The final bare knuckle heavyweight title fight. Let's look at it. And there they are again. Jake and John L. I knocked the lamp over. Like the 3rd lamp I done broke. Let me get put out of here. Be in one of y'all basements. Okay. End of a boxing era. The tale of Jake Kilrain versus John L. Sullivan. The final bare knuckle heavyweight title fight. Okay, let's look at this. This is a pretty good article here. Okay, let me check the chat, see if anybody came in or anything before we continue. Smash the like. You can Cash App, Super Chat, or just smash the like. I appreciate you being here. That's the main thing, It was just past 10 a.m. on July 8th, 1889, as the 2 combatants entered the makeshift ring on a farm in Richburg, Mississippi. But the rising sun had already sent temperatures past 100 degrees. A crowd of nearly 3,000 had gathered in relative secret, traveling 100 miles on 3 trains from New Orleans under the cover of darkness the previous night. Now, this is the fight we just talked about doing the profile. We're going in a little deeper on it now. Okay. Now, one train contained the fighters and their entourages. The 2 following trains carried the horde of ticket holders. Some had paid $15 for ringside seats. The rest paid $10 for general admission. And I told you that was between $100 and $400 in today's money. Now, they had come to witness an illegal activity, a bare knuckles boxing match, a sporting event deemed illegal in all 38 states, including Mississippi, where Governor Robert Lowry had offered a $1,500 reward for the arrest of the fighters. Yeah, it was only 38 states at that time, 1889. $1,500 reward for the arrest of the fighters was offered by the governor of Louisiana because bare knuckles boxing was illegal, right? So that was why they had the need for secrecy. Now, the ring had been erected the night before by a crew working under the light of torches. The fans who rode the trains through the night held tickets. They had no exact location, only destination and return. The fans didn't even know where the fight was going to be at. The ticket had destination and return. Okay? No boxing match in American history had ever created so much excitement. Newspapers had carried stories about the two fights for months, about the two fighters for months. Okay? And no boxing match like it would ever be seen again. For on July 8th, 1889, John L. Sullivan faced Jake Kilrain for the World Heavyweight title in what would be the last heavyweight championship held under the London Prize Ring rules, or bare knuckles. More than a century later, boxing fans know Sullivan's name. John was America's first sports superstar. Kilrain, he was the son of Irish immigrants, and he was born on Long Island and grew up in Somerville, Massachusetts. Now, in the biggest fight of his career, Kilrain squared off against the mighty John L. Sullivan for 75 rounds under a broiling Mississippi sun as boxing passed from one era to another, from the bare knuckle era to the glove era. Okay? Now, Kilrain was born John Joseph Kilrain. He learned to fight as a teenager in the mills outside of Boston. He fought his first professional fight at the age of 19. He was 10 wins, no losses, 3 draws when he fought Mike Cleary to a draw at Madison Square Garden, at which time he caught the eye of Richard K. Fox. Now, Richard K. Fox was the publisher of the National Police Gazette. He had an affection for sports. The Gazette was one of the first newspapers in America to print a sports section. Wow. One of the first newspapers in the country to print a sports section. Now, Fox had a long, outstanding feud with John L. Sullivan that dated back to a restaurant incident in which Sullivan refused Fox's invitation to his table and instead demanded Fox come to his table. Okay? Now, Fox took an interest in Kilrain, and in the Gazette, he proclaimed him the new heavyweight hope. Okay? Oh, I got to keep track of the chat. Define Arnie 1 in the building. What's up, Define Arnie 1? We talked about the Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. So now we're going in deep on that John L. Sullivan, Jake Kilrain 75-round fight. But salute Define Arnie 1. We're going to look at a little background on it, the fight, and the aftermath. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, this guy, John L. Fox, the Fox guy, he didn't like Sullivan. Sullivan had kind of snubbed him. Now, yeah, in 1887, Fox challenged Sullivan to fight Kilrain, okay? The two sides negotiated the terms, and whether Sullivan actually agreed to the fight remains uncertain. But when Sullivan suddenly took on a fight with Paddy Cardiff instead, Fox was outraged, you know. Fox claimed Kilrain was now the heavyweight champion due to Sullivan's forfeit. Fox commissioned the Police Gazette belt, which featured diamond-studded silver, and he awarded it to Kilrain. In turn, Sullivan's financial backers gave John L. his own championship belt. Made with 14-karat gold, the belt included a 3-carat diamond and was encrusted with 256 diamonds. It was valued at $8,000, right? And this is 1889. $8,000 nowadays, probably well over like $200,000-300,000 nowadays. $8,000 then, yeah. Now, when presented with the belt, Sullivan said, "I wouldn't put Fox's belt around the neck of a goddamn dog." Him and Fox didn't like each other, Sullivan. Now, the Sullivan-Kilrain fight seemed predestined, but it had yet to be finalized. In 1887, when Sullivan set off on a European tour. Now, the popular champion sparred in 50 exhibitions across England, Scotland, and Ireland against inferior opponents. He had one legitimate fight, a bare knuckle encounter with Englishman Charlie Mitchell. We talked about that. The fight was fought in a pouring rain, and it was declared a draw after 39 rounds. Now, Kilrain, meanwhile, also went to Europe. He accepted a challenge from Jem Smith, who shared the British heavyweight title with Mitchell. Now, Sullivan's handlers hoped for the Smith victory. They wanted Kilrain to lose, which would rid them of the Fox feud nuisance, Kilrain. So they was hoping Kilrain would lose, they would be rid of him, right? But Kilrain met Smith on December 19th, 1887 on an island on the Seine River in Paris. The two slugged it out for 106 rounds before the fight was declared a draw due to darkness, right? 106 rounds, only reason they stopped because it got dark, right? Now, the younger and less experienced Kilrain had proved his mettle in this fight. This guy, Smith, shared the European championship, right? And Kilrain won 106 rounds with him and fought to a draw. So Sullivan could not duck Kilrain any longer. However, on his European trip, Sullivan had ballooned up to 280 pounds. His notorious drinking, he was said to consume entire magnums of champagne and beer steins filled with bourbon, had caught up with him. Now, he returned to the United States in April 1888, Sullivan, and soon thereafter suffered a health scare so bad that a priest was summoned to his bedside. In his autobiography, Sullivan said he suffered from typhoid fever, gastric fever, inflammation of the bowels, heart trouble, and liver complaints. Wow, he had a lot of ailments to be fighting. Damn. In truth, Sullivan was suffering from kidney and liver collapse due to his heavy drinking, right? His weight plummeted to a sickly 160 pounds, but he recovered over the next 6 months. In early 1889, Sullivan finally agreed to fight Kilrain. Okay, he accepted Fox's challenge, and the fight with Kilrain was set finally. Okay, because after Kilrain went to Europe, the same time John O'Sullivan was touring Europe, and Kilrain went 106 pounds with the European champion. So Sullivan couldn't duck him any longer after everybody was calling for the fight now. So the stakes for the Sullivan-Kilrain fight was exceed $20,000, with the fighters' backers putting up $10,000 each. In addition, Sullivan and Kilrain would add $1,000 each to the pot at the start of the fight. Sullivan bet an additional $5,000. The winner would also get the other's championship belt and a percentage of the gate, which would wind up netting another $10,000. So that was a rich fight for 1880s. Woo. Yeah. Okay. So an estimated $500,000 would be wagered by fans, with the smart money being laid on Kilrain due to Sullivan's well-known health issue. Then, when Sullivan stepped into the ring and peeled off his robe, showing off a 215-pound streamlined frame, William Muldoon, a noted fitness expert, had worked with Sullivan over the previous 6 months in Belfast, New York. Muldoon had kept Sullivan from drinking by putting him through a rigorous routine of wood chopping, plowing fields, jumping rope, and sparring. Now, upon seeing Sullivan in such good condition, the crowd immediately sensed that the money bet on Kilrain was in jeopardy. Kilrain weighed in at 195 pounds, which may or may not have been an exaggeration of 10 pounds or more. So they say Kilrain was probably really around 180. He was very much smaller than Sullivan. Now, the two would fight under the London prize ring rules. This was the last fight under the London prize ring rules of bare knuckle, which combined boxing with wrestling. Now, the major difference between the Marquis of Queensberry rules and the London prize ring rules was that the Queensberry rules called for gloves, while the London prize ring rules did not. Okay? Now, you could agree to wear gloves under the London prize ring rules, but it wasn't. The Queensberry rules, gloves were mandatory, but the London prize ring rules, they were not. It was optional. And they fought this fight bare knuckle. Okay? In addition, the London rules permitted grabbing and throwing, right? A round did not have a time limit, but instead came to an end when a fighter was thrown to the ground or knocked down with a punch, right? And there was no specific number of rounds, no limit on the round, the time of a round, and no limit on the number of rounds, okay? That was the London prize ring rules, but the Queensberry rules changed all that. But this was the last fight under the London prize ring rules. Now, as a result of the London prize ring rules permitting grabbing, Sullivan had cut his hair and shaved off his signature mustache. He had that handlebar, remember? Sullivan did. Yeah. See and see on this picture, that's Sullivan on the right. He didn't have it. No, that's Sullivan on the left. He didn't have it. Right? He shaved it off. Okay. Now, Fitzpatrick, okay, the referee, at 10:30 a.m., the referee, John Fitzpatrick, who would many years later become the mayor of New Orleans, called the fighters to scratch, which was a line scratched out in the middle of the ring. Fitzpatrick then shouted, "Time," and the last bare knuckle World Heavyweight Championship fight began. Okay? In the first round, Kilrain grabbed Sullivan around the neck and threw him down. The round lasted just 15 seconds, because remember, somebody get thrown down or knocked down, that's it, and Kilrain threw Sullivan down immediately. The first round lasted just 15 seconds. Now, the action was more of a wrestling match for the next few rounds. The fourth round lasted 15 minutes. In either the fifth or sixth round, Kilrain hit Sullivan in the air, drawing blood. The referee Fitzpatrick called out. First blood, Kilrain, and money exchanged hands in the stands. As bets were settled. They made bets on who would get the first knockdown, who would draw the first blood. They bet on everything, okay? So the referee yelled first blood, and money changed hands, okay, because Kilrain drew first blood. Now, Sullivan began to outbox Kilrain, though, landing heavy blows. At the end of the 17th round, Kilrain's seconds had to carry him to his corner. Right? That's early in these type of fights, 17th round. Now, the fighters wore high-top shoes with cleats to help them get traction in the dirt. Kilrain stepped on Sullivan's foot, accidentally or otherwise, and at some point, blood could be seen seeping through the tops of Sullivan's shoes, right? Kilrain stepped and they wore cleats, metal cleats, okay? Now, the two had gone at each other for over an hour. As they reached the 30th round, their backs were now burned, sunburned, it was outside, and blistered from the sun. Their handlers treated them between rounds with water and tea. Now, at some point during the fight, Sullivan's corner began mixing whiskey into the champion's tea to fortify him, because Sullivan was an alcoholic. He was still an alcoholic at the time, right? So they started giving him whiskey instead of water over there, right? In the 44th round, Sullivan vomited, drinking that whiskey out there in the hot sun. In the 44th round, Sullivan vomited, probably from drinking whiskey in the broiling sun, right? Now, Kilrain asked Sullivan if he wanted to declare the fight a draw and stop, which only served to anger Sullivan. Sullivan dominated the later rounds, although Kilrain's punches did cause one of Sullivan's eyes to close. But Sullivan's attack wore Kilrain down. At the start of the 30th round, Kilrain's handlers had to lift him off his stool and point him toward the center of the ring, right? They had to actually lift him up and show him which way to go to fight, okay? I've heard of the corner coming out to get you and show you to the corner, but never the corner having to show you from the corner to the middle of the ring to fight. That's about time to stop it, isn't it? Wow. The rounds counted into the 70s. Kilrain was near exhaustion. When we got to like the 75th round, 74th, 75th round, a doctor at ringside told Kilrain's corner that their fighter could die if he went back out there one more round, he could die. Mike Donovan, one of Kilrain's cornermen, had already seen two men die in bare knuckles fighting. So as Kilrain attempted to stagger back to the ring for the start of the 76th round, Donovan, who had already seen men die in bare knuckles fighting, Donovan threw the towel in, right? Now, although Kilrain protested, the fight ended after 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 25 seconds, and 75 rounds, okay? The fight was over, and so was boxing's bare knuckle era. The fans and fighters eventually headed back to their trains. The law was still on the lookout for Sullivan, Kilrain, and their financial backers, because bare knuckle fighting was illegal in 38 states, all 38 states. It was 38 states of the United States. And the mayor had given a $1,500 reward for the arrest of Sullivan or Kilrain. Sullivan was arrested in Nashville, Tennessee, as he traveled back. He was going on his way back to New York. They caught him in Nashville, Tennessee. They caught Kilrain right here in Baltimore, Maryland. Wow. Kilrain was arrested in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, after a long trial, Sullivan was found guilty of illegal fighting and sentenced to a year in jail. He appealed the verdict, and it was overturned. And he paid a $500 fine instead. Now, Kilrain received a 2-month jail sentence, which he served on Charles Richards' farm where the fight had taken place, right? So the guy who owned the farm with it and was one of the backers of the fight, Kilrain went down there and did some light duty on his farm for his 2-month sentence, right? So he didn't do nothing heavy, right? And so that's what Sullivan went on and paid the money and went on back to New York. Sullivan didn't fight again for another 3 years. He never fought bare knuckles again. Kilrain had 15 more professional fights, but he never fought for the world title again. Sullivan died on February 2nd, 1918. Kilrain was one of his pallbearers. Kilrain died 19 years later at the age of 78 in Quincy, Massachusetts. He is buried in St. Mary's Cemetery, just a few miles from where Sullivan is buried. Okay, yeah. That was a little on the 75-round fight they had. John L. Sullivan and Jake Kilrain. Okay, so let's, I got something else we're gonna look at now. Let me see what's happening in the chat. Appreciate everybody, it's Friday. Friday. Yeah, we're gonna look at now. I always got some questions to ask y'all. In what important ways are old bare knuckle boxing like and unlike modern boxing? Okay, since we just get talking about the last bare knuckles fight. In what important ways are old bare knuckle boxing like and unlike modern boxing? Okay, glad y'all asked. Let's take a look at it. Okay, let's take a look at it. Get that off. I can't get the daggone thing to come on, man. Come on now. Don't do me like that. Yeah, we're gonna compare some similarities and differences of the old bare knuckles boxing to the modern form of boxing. Okay? Two old bare knuckles boxes right there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh man, I was late today. 3:31. Man. Let's get this in. Old bare knuckles boxing and modern boxing. We're gonna do a comparison. The Wi-Fi ain't act up on me. Yeah, let me be quiet. That's why I was late. It acted up right at the beginning. Okay. Anything happened at the weigh-ins today? Guess it was like the one 2 weeks ago. Sean and Edwin Dos Santos. Okay, let's get this going. Oh, come on. Slow. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. Please. Okay. Now, in what ways there we go. I'll give it this thing. I ain't typing all that mess in there. Okay, I got it up. Here we go right here. In what important ways are old bare knuckle boxing like and unlike modern boxing? Okay, again, glad y'all asked. Well, y'all come up with some good questions. Let's look at it. Let's take a look at it. Take a stab at it. Now, old bare knuckles boxing and modern boxing share some similarities, but differ significantly in rules, techniques, and cultural context. Here are some key points of comparison. Let's look at the similarities first. Number one, basic objective. Both forms of boxing aim to defeat the opponent through strikes, whether by knockout, by points awarded, by knockout or by points awarded by judges. Looking at some similarities now between old bare knuckles and modern boxing. Number two, fighting stance. Fighters in both old bare knuckle boxing and modern boxing adopt specific stances to defend themselves and deliver punches effectively. Number three, training. Both require rigorous training, including physical conditioning, technique refinement, and strategy development. Number four, physicality. Both sports demand high levels of physical fitness, strength, and agility. Let's look at some differences between the old bare knuckles boxing and modern boxing. Let's look at some differences, okay? Rules and regulations. Bare knuckles boxing often had fewer formal rules, with fights sometimes continuing until one fighter could no longer continue. There were no standardized rounds or time limits. Modern boxing governed by strict rules, including defined rounds, weight classes, and regulations about the types of punches allowed. Referees enforce rules to ensure safety. We talking about some different. 2. Protective gear. Bare knuckles boxing. Fighters fought without gloves, which increased the risk of cuts and injuries. Whereas modern boxing, boxers wear padded gloves which protect both the hands and the opponent, reducing the risk of severe cuts and injuries. Another big difference is the scoring system. Bare knuckles boxing typically did not have a formal scoring system. Fights could end in a knockout or be called off by the referee. Modern boxing uses a point system where judges score each round based on the number and quality of punches landed, along with other criteria like defense and control of the ring. Cultural context. Bare knuckle boxing, often associated with informal underground settings, and was part of a broader culture of street fighting and entertainment in the 18th and 19th centuries. Whereas modern boxing, recognized as a professional sport with established organizations, like the WBC, IBF, WBA, WBO, extensive media coverage, and significant financial investment. Fighter safety. Bare knuckles boxing. Safety was less of a concern, leading to higher rates of serious injury and even death. Whereas modern boxing, there are regulations aimed at protecting fighters. Okay? There are regulations aimed at protecting fighters, including medical examinations and protocols for handling injuries. Now, while old bare knuckle boxing and modern boxing share the fundamental goal of striking an opponent, the evolution of rules, safety measures, and the overall structure of the sport highlight significant differences that reflect changes in societal attitudes towards combat sports and athlete welfare. man. Hello. Okay, let's finish this thing off, man. I don't understand it at all. Okay, let's finish this show off and get the hell out of here. Let's look at these bare knuckles fighters and say goodbye, man. Okay. Is anybody still there? Okay. Let's look at these couple of bare knuckles fighters and ride off into the sunset. Okay. We only got 10 minutes. Okay. We got enough time to do this. That damn thing says connect. What's going on? I don't get it. There we go. Okay, we're gonna look at the some bare knuckles fighters. The last thing we do today. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, where were some bare knuckle fighters? Some guys that stood out in the bare knuckle era as far as fighters. Okay, James Figg. There's James Figg. James Figg competed from 1684 to 1734. Wow. Considered the first recognized champion of boxing, Figg was a skilled fighter and a pioneer in promoting the sport. Okay. Tom Mullenall. Well, Jack Broughton. 1704-1789. Jack Broughton was a heavyweight champion known for his powerful punches and defensive technique. He also created the first set of boxing rules, known as the Broughton rules. Tom Mullenall. We're talking about some famous bare knuckles fighters. Tom Mullenall competed from 1784 to 1818. An African-American fighter who became famous for his fights in England. He was one of the first boxers to gain international recognition. And of course, John L. Sullivan, who the profile was on today, is John L. Everybody hit the like button, please. Not subscribe. William Old School of Rant in the building. Al Booker, what's up, gentlemen? Yeah, Old School. The neighbors done pulled the plug on me, man. Had to sneak out there and plug it back in, bro. What's up, Old School? Tonight is Friday, Angry White Men at 10 o'clock p.m. William Old School of Rant and D1, 10 p.m. Don't miss it. Friday podcast. They're gonna be angry. Old School angry now. See, I finally get the chance to show up, and you have technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Old School. Yeah, catch you next time. But I'll be in there tonight. I might hit y'all link tonight, okay? Now, Tom Mullen, John L. Sullivan, and we're going to get on up out of here. John L. Sullivan competed from 1858 1918. We just talked about him. That was his lifespan. Not competed, I meant that's what these guys' lives were, 1858 1918. Often regarded as the last bare knuckle champion and the first glove champion. Okay? John L. Sullivan. He made his mark in the bare knuckle era and the glove era. Okay? Tom Cribb. Tom Cribb was a celebrated champion who fought in several high-profile fights. Cribb was known for his endurance and boxing styles. And then Daniel Mendoza, a Jewish boxer who was one of the first to use scientific technique in boxing, emphasizing strategy and skill over brute strength. Yeah, him and Joe Gans was some of the first boxers to introduce the sweet science to it, you know. Before them, it was just people in there just going at it, stand up in the pocket, just throwing punches at each other's heads. But they brought the sweet science into it, you know. One of the first to bring scientific techniques, Daniel Mendoza. These fighters not only contributed to the sport's development, but also left a lasting legacy in boxing history. Yeah, there you have it. Yeah. And that's going to be it for today. Messed up the end of the show, but it's all good. We'll be back Monday with another big week of boxing history. Okay? Don't forget tonight, the Angry White Men at 10, BBO at 8, Just Do Boxing at 4. Still got a nice lineup of podcasts coming up. Boxing talk in these YouTube streets. All day. Just Do is next. And BBO 8, the Angry White Men at 10. Okay? But William Old School of Rant, Al Booker, Define Arnie 1, Kensaw Love 1, Jiro Hattie, Mike Rim, Mike Mazik, Thomas Hill, and Miss Cass. Okay? Getting ready for the weekend. We got some fights. We got like 3 cards, I think, this weekend. I know it's one from England, one from California. I think it's one in Florida, too. No, we got at least 3. And we already had one Thursday, remember, from Japan. It started the week out, remember? Brian Norman went over there and did his thing, got a stoppage, went across to Japan, across the Pacific Ocean. Got a knockout. It was one of those knockout of the year candidates, too. So, yeah. But, join Just Do Boxing next. Okay? Everybody have a great weekend. This is Cass Sports the Box Historian, bringing you all that boxing history.